I know that so many of us are experiencing unprecedented anxieties that are testing the limits of our mental health. As an advocate, I've had a front row seat watching how the coronavirus is impacting the mental health community. Most of us are afraid of getting sick, of course, or giving it to someone else. And the other major fear is the financial impact of the virus. This is new territory for us as a culture, and because of this, all of the unknowns make us feel like we don't have any control. After listening to a lot of your concerns, I'd like to offer 10 ways to help manage some of the stress you might be experiencing. Even if just one of these tips provides a little more peace in your life, it's worth watching. If you need some extra support right now, there's a link in the video description where you can contact me directly. I am always here to help. Let's jump right into the first tip, and this is probably the most important one. We need to be making a conscious effort to unplug. The mainstream media is capitalizing on the biggest story of the century, and they're going about it in the most insidious way. Instead of showing reality, which would be 90% of people isolating at home with their family, they're using fear-mongering images of gas masks and death. Instead of giving you ways to manage your anxiety, they are intentionally choosing language designed to breed fear and uncertainty. It's simple why they're doing this. The longer you watch, the more money they make. Many of us are spending a lot more time at home right now, so without even realizing it, we might be watching the news way more than usual. Here's something that I've done, and it's made a massive difference in my mental health. Delete all the news apps from your devices and ask a stable family member or friend to tell you if there's anything crucial you need to know about. Get your information from local government websites instead of the media. There's a huge difference between being informed and obsessing over the news. It comes down to the most simple choice. You can choose to participate in the news drama or not. For my mental well-being, I simply choose to not participate right now. So my second tip is also really important. Let's call this one selectively staying in contact with people. It's so crucial that we stay connected with each other right now, but those of us with mental illness need to do it strategically. Some of our loved ones are more resilient at managing the stress of what's happening, while others spend time catastrophizing everything. If someone you love is making the situation harder on themselves and more importantly you, it might be a good idea to distance yourself. That might mean setting some gentle boundaries or avoiding them completely until this is all over. If you're stuck at home with a difficult roommate, talk about a plan to respect each other's boundaries now before things build up. I've had to tell a few loved ones that I simply refuse to discuss anything related to the virus with them, and that's okay. If they want to call and talk about the weather, I'm all about it. If they want to call and talk about death and chaos like the news reports, I just have no interest in participating in that. Staying connected in healthy ways is so important right now, though. With depression comes isolation, and with isolation comes depression. Many of us are being forced to isolate right now. Even people without mental illness are having a very hard time with this. If someone you talk to regularly has stopped messaging you, that's a big red flag of isolation. I've been picking just one friend or family member per day that I haven't talked to in a while, and I'm sending them a funny picture or a message letting them know that I'm thinking about them. It only takes a minute, and it might make a world of difference if someone's having a horrible day. I've gotten some really neat responses back, and it's helped to keep my spirits up. So all that being said, please stay connected with each other, but do it in healthy, strategic ways. So my next tip is routine, routine, routine. I know, way easier said than done for a lot of us. Millions of us are out of work right now, working from home, or working way too much. Having some sort of routine is so important for our comfort and stability, and this is going to come down to the little things. If you're working from home, try to designate a specific room or area as your, quote, office. Set an alarm to wake up and even get dressed in your work clothes if you have to. If you're missing your yoga or aerobics classes, find a video on YouTube and do it in the living room. If you can't see your therapist, set aside some time to watch my videos or arrange a coaching session with me. I'm very happy to help. It might not be exactly what you're used to, but these little things make a big difference. Pick just one small thing a day from your old routine that you can creatively incorporate into your new routine. I work from home myself, so I know the appeal of waking up late, working from bed, or in my boxers at the computer. That sounds nice, but after a while, my mental health suffers greatly from it. I'll go to bed later and later, I'll forget to take breaks and move, and my eating schedule is all over the place. Coronavirus or not, keeping some kind of routine is paramount for mental health. My fourth tip is another really important one for the mental health community. Be extra careful of substance abuse right now. The big ones are anxiety meds, alcohol, and pot. I know many of you probably just looked at the ground and thought, crap, that's me. Look, I'm not here to be your parent or to pass judgment, okay? I just want to point out that many of us are ramping up our drug and alcohol abuse. Stress and boredom are common causes of relapse. I know how hard some of you have worked at sobriety over the years. This might even include quitting smoking. Please don't use the virus as an excuse to throw all that away. We really have to think about our family too. If everyone is at home right now with tensions running high, adding substances into the mix can really push things over the edge. The virus is already taking so much from us. Don't let it take your sobriety or worse yet, your family from you. My next tip is to strategically establish some control. Things feel so out of control right now, but there's little things that you can do to take back some of it. If all you can do is wash your hands, not touch your face, and be extra careful at the grocery store, then do just that. Focus on those things. Maybe do some house cleaning so you feel more in control of your environment. Take a long walk so you can get some control over your anxieties. We are being bombarded with things that are out of our control right now. As I mentioned earlier, the news media is the biggest contributor to this. If you live in a small town in Alabama, how is it going to help you worrying about people dying in New York? It's out of your control. Say a prayer for those people and go back to cleaning your kitchen. If it isn't happening right now in your backyard, let it go. This is a wonderful opportunity to practice surrendering. My sixth tip is to stop panic manic spending. Many of us with bipolar disorder have problems with our finances. We get symptomatic and go spend money. If we aren't working right now, or we can't anticipate the full economic impact of the virus, this is probably the worst time to go on a credit card bender. The worst part is that we have a somewhat socially acceptable excuse to spend money. Everyone else is panic buying, so why shouldn't I? I've spoken with a lot of people who are in financial ruin right now because they spent all of their savings on Amazon, like not able to even pay rent, but they have plenty of toilet paper. Many of us buy something new as a distraction from the way we feel inside. I've been there myself. With all the external stressors going on right now, it's even easier to fall back into bad spending habits. Do whatever you have to protect you and your family from this. Get rid of credit cards or ask a spouse to hide them. Make an agreement to go over purchases with your partner first. If you're single, look into a payee service to help manage your money. I've had a personal payee for a decade now, and I always have a little bit of money going into savings as a result. The coronavirus might continue to be an issue for a long time, so we need to pace ourselves and watch out for that manic spending. So tip number 7 is to not miss the bipolar point. Before I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, I used anything to justify the symptoms of an episode. It's my spouse's fault that I feel this way. It's my boss's fault, or the job, or where I live, etc. It always feels so much better to have a reason for the nasty feelings inside. There's a big difference between a trigger and the root source of a bipolar episode. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference when we aren't well. There are many of us having serious bipolar episodes during the coronavirus crisis, and they're using the virus as the sole justification for their symptoms. Although the virus is a big trigger for some of us, we might be missing the bipolar point. If you can remember to treat the bipolar symptoms first, many of your subsequent anxieties will diminish. Wink, wink. My 8th tip is to avoid emotional drive-bys right now. You ever have one of those friends that only contacts you when the sky is falling or when they need something? I have a couple of those. It's like taking a giant crap on someone's doorstep and then leaving. A lot of us do this without even realizing it though. Just take a look at the pattern of your sent messages right now. Are you doing emotional drive-bys on your family and friends? When was the last time you contacted them just to say I love you or to ask if they need support during the pandemic? How many horrible news stories have you shared with friends compared to positive ones? We need balance in our relationships more than ever right now. Pick one of your closest friends and send them something positive right now. Pause the video if you have to. It's really that important. Moving on to number 9, and my 9th tip is to be very mindful of your eating habits right now. Some of us eat when we're stressed while others don't eat enough. Food is like medicine for people with mental illness. The wrong foods or the wrong amounts can have a really negative impact on our well-being. Try to keep your eating schedule like it was before the pandemic. If there was a certain time that you'd have lunch at work or school, keep that same schedule at home. All it takes is one late meal to offset all the other ones. If snacking is an issue, don't buy 20 bags of chips, especially if you're stocking up on food. That one simply comes down to choices. I know I don't have the discipline to not snack at night, so I just don't keep that stuff around. If you aren't eating enough, consider getting some of those nutritional drinks like Boost or Ensure. Many of us are eating things that we normally don't. Restaurants are closed, and most of us are making limited trips to the grocery store. Anything you can do to maintain a normal, healthy eating schedule can make a world of difference. My final tip is to make sure that you're moving. Remember how we feel when it's raining for weeks and we can't go outside? We get stir crazy. Before the virus, we would make trips into town to work or to school on a regular basis. Even if it's not the gym, it's still got us moving and changed the scenery a little bit. Moving also stimulates our lymph system, which helps us fight off sickness. Exercise is proven to help with anxiety and depression, but with the state of the world, we might have to get a little creative here. I've been doing little things like when a commercial comes on TV, I'll get up and walk in place until the show starts again. I'll walk around the living room while I brush my teeth. These are little things that you can also encourage your kids to do. When my anxiety has reached a peak, I've been going on long walks to exhaust myself before I consider taking anxiety medication. I'll set timers to make sure I'm not at the computer for too long. Every little bit helps. Even house cleaning is a great way to move a little. If you aren't well enough to move, do some stretching from bed. Moving doesn't have to be a 30-minute run. It can even be following along with a yoga video on YouTube. Moving just a little bit can remedy a lot. So I really hope that something I've said today makes a difference in the lives of our polar warriors out there. Take extra gentle care of yourselves right now. I encourage all of you to take a step back and separate the external triggers from the internal episodes. Remember to respond rather than react. Easier said than done. Stay laser focused on what is in your circle of influence or control right now. Let go of what isn't. The virus will come and go, just like every other crisis we've dealt with as a society. The way we treat our family and the choices that we make right now, especially if we aren't well, can impact us a lot longer than the virus will. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, and of course I'll be back soon with more Polar Warrior videos. Stay well, you guys.